Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar. Thanks for being here today. We're going to talk about risk, governance, and AI. And we're excited to be here. And Laura's going to be sharing her screen here on this. And we'll get started in about 5 or 10 seconds here. Got a lot to share with you today. My name is Michael Glasser. And I'm very happy to have with me Laura, a security engineer with Arctic Wolf, and Ernesto with our Director of Security and also our CISO for our clients here at Frontline. And in about 5 or 10 seconds, I'm going to get them to introduce themselves. We have chock full of information. Please put your questions in the chat. We'll answer them at the end, and we'll get started right away. So Laura, introduce yourself.
Perfect. And you can see my screen perfectly, right?
100%.
Excellent. So yeah, my name is Laura Bundesin. I am a certified information systems security professional, and I'm working here at Arctic Wolf as a security sales engineer. I have a background in pen testing. That was my previous employer. But more personally, I have a bachelor's degree in music. I play drums in a cover band, baking sourdough bread, doing yoga, all that good stuff.
Cool. And Ernesto?
My name is Ernesto Negron. Been in the industry for over 30 years now, but specific legal is about 25 years. Been in security for 22 of the 25 years. As Michael stated earlier, I provide virtual CISO services to our clients. I manage the security team at Frontline, and we provide all types of services for our clients surrounding information security policies and so forth.
Thanks, Ernesto. All right, my name is Michael Glasser, and I'm one of the Senior Executive Vice Presidents here at Frontline. We're talking here today about security services. So Ernesto is part of our managed IT services team, but we've got a huge help desk as well, handling law firms of an EM Law 200 and downwards. We also handle managed financial services law firm that includes managed accounts receivable, invoicing, e-billing. We manage somewhere upwards of $60 billion a year on that. We have the exclusivity on legal optimized suite of solutions for law firms, and that's what we do. We're also certified ISO partner, 27001 compliant, as well as many other compliances there. So again, thanks for everyone being here today. We're going to get started.
Awesome. So in order to address today risk governance and artificial intelligence, we'll be looking at some data from Arctic Wolf's 2025 Security Operations Report. So it's going to be important to set the stage of where we got that data, right? So Arctic Wolf has a security operations center of over 1,000 security engineers, the largest privately owned SOC in the world. We are monitoring customer environments 24/7, over 10,000 customers. So we're ingesting 8 trillion events per week. To put that number in some context, I have a graph at the bottom here showing that 8 trillion events per week is more than the combination of email sent and Google searches globally per week. So just a massive amount of data that we're looking at. So we gather these insights based on this data set to create our report for security operations. And today we're going to take a look at a few interesting insights that are most relevant to the legal industry. So let's get right into it. So in 2025, we saw some pretty alarming increases in phishing. This statistic is from 1 month where we saw an increase in phishing of 500%. Now, we also noticed that attackers were exploiting moments of distraction, so breaking news, major disasters, major announcements, when we knew that, or when attackers know that people are more likely to click on something. Maybe they want to understand news quickly, or they're just distracted. Their emotions are heightened. Ernesto, is there anything you've seen recently about that increase in phishing?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Absolutely. So with the introduction of the increased use of AI itself, and I know we're going to talk about it shortly, but the tactics that the bad actors are using are becoming more creative. You know, you still have the urgency, but sometimes they'll sit there and sit in your environment for a little while, maybe have access to your mailbox, and just wait for the right moment to craft that slick email using AI to either commit wire fraud or send phishing to other potential victims. And teams, the bad actors have been combining efforts. And what I mean by that is that you'll have an English-speaking group partnership with a Russian-based group. So the English speaker will do the initial launch the initial injection or whatever case may be, or the social engineering like they're doing pertaining to their help desk. And then they'll gain access to the credentials, validate the access, and then pass it off to the Russian group to continue on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ernesto brought up the use of AI. So that's definitely making scale of phishing easier for attackers. But just like Ernesto was saying, it's a combination of artificial intelligence and human effort that makes these more compelling. And I think sort of those red flags of the past of like, there's a bunch of typos in this email. It doesn't look like it's from a native English speaker. It looks like a weird sender. Those are really red flags of the past. So we have to be even more vigilant about our awareness. So making awareness training that much more important, don't click that. And really having, yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to add that it's making them more targeted, right? They'll know what industry you're in. They'll make it seem like, it's really coming from something legitimate. Actually, we just got one this morning I saw from somebody. It looked totally legitimate. It said it was about a case for a plaintiff law firm. It looked pretty legitimate off the cuff, but it turns out it wasn't legitimate. So you got to be really, really careful. That social engineering, even with the training, it just gets people, as you said, they're very busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, just to add one thing before we get to the next slide, is they're leveraging letters more accurately now. So, and what I mean by that, so you have the letter M for Microsoft, but then they use the R and the N together. And then based on your font size and sometimes you can't really see, or you just quickly, and it looks like Microsoft, you think this is a Microsoft email message or a web portal for Microsoft, and you're clicking on it and you're actually clicking on the bad actors portal.
Yeah, definitely. And we all do it, right? Especially on my phone, I'll type like just one little letter off takes you to the wrong place. Yeah, so, this is just showing us that we have to combat against AI with strong cybersecurity defenses. So exploring a little bit more the landscape of cyber insurance, what we have here is an effectiveness gap. So we're seeing over the last couple of years a continued increase in cyber losses, looking at that 16.6 billion in losses from 2024. But the bottom line here is showing, we aren't necessarily seeing increases in effectiveness when it comes to security. And this is impacting organizations' ability to get cyber insurance. Cyber insurers need to make sure that they are staying profitable, which means they need to validate that you're secure. So some examples here on the right, we've seen increases in premiums by 50%. And now that insurers are actually requiring proof of security controls, things like MFA, 24/7 monitoring, and so on.
Laura, I'd like to add, so I like to go back to COVID because COVID aligns with since 2020, right? So the one thing we've noticed when COVID appeared and occurred and we had a pandemic, everyone started working from home. And at the time, people were busy, with the kids and everything else, and then they're just clicking on emails, not realizing they gave bad actors credentials and stuff like that. But the insurance company knowledge around cyber risk, they weren't mature, right? So what COVID did, they had a wake-up call because they lost a lot of money because people were getting compromised left and right. And what they've done in the last couple of years, as they either purchase a security company or they, hired a security staff that now, instead of having the 1 or 2 pages for your renewal, I'm seeing 10, 11 pages for clients that we're assisting with them on their cyber insurance renewal application. And they're asking for very technical questions and they want proof. So it's not only proof where, you have EDR deployed and you have, MFA and all that kind of stuff. Security awareness training is going to be a big portion of it because if you if you say that you have security awareness training and you have a breach and the adjuster asks you, please provide me your current cybersecurity awareness training report. And if those numbers are off, what I'm saying, if you have a 46% a completion rate on the cybersecurity awareness training, they could deny that claim. And then now it talks about, now that becomes to the point of that, can the law firm be able to absorb that cost of recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to show proof of those strong security controls. And then, without that proof, premiums could be higher or demand could be, or excuse me, coverage could be denied. So that's really what's at risk here.
And one thing they're also doing is they're scanning your external interfaces on a monthly basis and providing you with reports. And they'll tell you, okay, we need validation that this vulnerability was addressed, or they could actually, I'm losing my thought right now, they could actually cancel your insurance, your cyber insurance policy with them.
That's interesting. That they're keeping up with it. And then, yeah, just validating that that's there from their own external perspective. So, the reality of a world in which we have artificial intelligence means that threats are out there, and they're evolving quickly. So when we look on the left here, we know that the likelihood of a threat is present. So what can be done about this? On the right side here, we have the solutions that Frontline and Arctic Wolf offer together to help drive down the possibility of a risk. And then should something occur, drive down the severity. So this sort of square in the middle are the products and services that we offer together to really drive down the likelihood that a threat will occur. And then should a threat occur, on the right, we have the products and services that help mitigate the impact. So containing that threat, making sure the dwell time is low, that there's no data exfiltration, and the brand reputation cost or legal cost is as low as possible.
And you'll see here that the line on the left starts as very thick. I'll call that your gap. And as you implement different security controls in there, your line gets narrower and narrower, and your gaps are reduced. And that's the whole idea, is to reduce your risk and minimize that gap. You can't ever eliminate it, right? There's always some security risks out there, but the idea is to reduce that by taking controls, putting them in place. And also, obviously, that'll also impact your insurance premiums as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And right now we've seen in the industry where I could rename these two boxes here. The one on the left is the left of boom, and on the side on the right is right of boom. So the left of boom are the tools and services you're providing, you've deployed to help monitor activities and everything else. The right side, it says, okay, boom happened. It means there's a breach, there's a compromise, something's occurring. Do you have the tools and do you have the processes and people in place to address that boom that just occurred? So it's the part of the recovery, just like what Laura stated, containment first, then you recover. So you have to make sure you have to document and flesh out properly, and performing tabletop exercises to make sure there aren't any gaps. So if you miss something, you could adjust accordingly through your tabletop exercises.
Yeah, left of boom, right of boom is a great way to look at this. Also proactive and then reactive. But just like Michael was saying, even with proactive security, reactive security, there will remain leftover threat. Sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Residual risk. That's it.
Right. And the key thing is, yes, we have the tools and services, but the way technology works, it's not if, it's when. Something's always going to happen. You cannot protect your environment 99% of the time. I mean, well, you can protect it 99% of the time. It's that 1% is the one that causes the issues, usually the user. So with these tools here, you have 99% coverage, but that's the key thing you have to concentrate on. The 1% is your user base.
And one other crucial point is, it's also important to review whether you're a large organization, you do it on a monthly basis or have a report from your CISO, or a quarterly basis of some basis to review what the risks are, what the gaps are, what needs to be done to reduce that, what's the cost to do that as well.
Yeah. So that remaining risk, that residual risk, is really where cyber insurance comes in to take on any of that remaining risk. So we'll transition and talk a little bit more about, the problem we presented at the beginning, which was the increase in AI from attackers and how we can defend against this artificial intelligence. So Arctic Wolf has been building AI intentionally for years. We call it Alpha AI, and it's really our answer to these evolving threats, designed to deliver customers with real world models to help them meet their security outcomes or their goals. So developing reliable, safe, effective security AI is difficult. And we believe that organizations need three main things to be effective when building AI models. So a large quantity of data that is specific to the domain, right? So in this case, we want a breadth of security relevant telemetry. Human expertise. So just like we were talking about with phishing, it's a combination of artificial intelligence and humans in the loop when it comes to the attack. And that's how we also need to approach the defense. We need to keep our human experts in the loop to add context to the data that we're seeing. And then bottom left here, data science. So having data scientists who live in this world of the challenge, really understand the challenge that customers are facing, and can use that knowledge to apply it to the models. Now, Arctic Wolf is uniquely positioned to build effective security AI models because we have all three of these elements. So we talked at the beginning about the 8 trillion events we are ingesting per week, and that's all security relevant data. It's 62 billion events per week, security related events, which comes to 7 petabytes of data, and that's over our 10,000 customer base, collected with Arctic Wolf technology, but also open integrations and open XDR. So we have data from top security providers. Additionally, we have that security operations center of 1,000 security engineers. So they're the ones providing that ongoing tuning and configuration of the models. And then we have Arctic Wolf Labs, bottom left here, which is our in-house threat intelligence team. So those are the people who are experts in research and development, specifically for security operations. So let's talk a little bit about turning that raw data into actionable intelligence, because we're seeing a lot of data, right? But we need to make that data useful for AI. So in order to train an effective AI model, this data needs context, and that's where the Security Operations Center, the security experts, come in, they review, they label that real world data to give it that context. And we call this the ground truth data set. So the ground truth data set is a verified high quality foundation for AI learning. Now that gives us a baseline for this reinforcement learning. So with the context from the Security Operations Center, our model can be leveraged by security analysts to triage faster with artificial intelligence, and then continuously tune and configure based on that real world application, which gives feedback to the SOC, which gives feedback to the model, and so on, creating this reinforcement learning sort of loop. So this is really how Arctic Wolf is positioned to address artificial intelligence and best defend our customers. So we've explored artificial intelligence, how that's transforming security operations, both defense and how attackers would use it. So let's talk more about reducing risk, because we're not going to reduce risk completely, right? There's still that remaining risk, even with proactive and reactive approaches, and that's where the cyber insurance comes into play. So we can take a look at some of the data we saw and hear from Frontline about what you guys have been seeing. But just to give you some context here, what we saw from the SecOps report in 2025 was 12% of clients filed claims, which is pretty low. And, we can assume that that might be because there is a fear of insurance premiums going up after a claim. The bottom left number shows that that's true. So that fear is very valid. Of 66% of clients' rates did increase. And then something else I would just want to call out is the financial impact on the right. So Organizations that did have 24/7 security operations monitoring, also called managed detection and response, MDR services, they had an average claim of 75,000 compared to those who didn't, who had a 3 million average claim. And sometimes that 3 million, those folks still had security on the endpoint, but not necessarily security across their entire environment. Yeah, Michael and Ernesto, what else have you seen?
1 second. I just think that when you think only 12%, that's like 1 out of every 8.5 organizations. That's a big number.
Yeah.
So that's actually that reported. So that is, to me, and it might, 12% not sound a lot, but you really put in context, it's 1 out of every 8.5 approximately. So it's a big number, and there's probably even more that are unreported as well. Just that's my initial take on that. Ernesto?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there are more clients that don't report their compromises or the incidents to the cyber insurance company. We've seen that a lot. And I think that the last sentence here, the hesitancy by the client, to notify clients, I think is one of the factors. So there's a well-known case where there was a law firm that was breached, and they never notified their clients for like a year and a half. And then, two different states filed lawsuits against them, and I'm not even sure if they're in business anymore because of the outcome.
Yeah. So yeah, just demonstrating sort of the state of the challenging situation that organizations are in.
And
Right.
one thing to add, I think the business email compromise is becoming the number one breach that we've seen out there. But the second the ransom we haven't seen ransomware as often anymore. So the 18% sounds about right, even though it's still a large number. But the upswing has been data exfiltration.
Mhm.
So bad actors realize if they you're stealing your data is more profitable than encrypting your data, because then they could do double extortion. So you pay one fee not to expose the data, and then another fee for them to destroy it properly. Depending upon which group you get, they're going to do it. Some of them will honor, the payment and do it and say what they're going to do, but then you have others that don't care and they'll still post that information out there anyway.
And one other thing I want to say is a lot of people don't realize these are major criminal operations. These are not somebody in their bedroom doing this. These are criminal organizations that make billions upon billions, if not in the trillions yet, a year. So these are very well organized, and it's not like this is not going away. They're always going to come up with ways to try to outsmart everyone else on it.
Right. Michael, just to add, so a lot of them are nation state, because some of these bad actors, if you haven't followed that, they have HR departments, they have hiring practices to provide benefits and everything else. And I do have a slide when I do live security awareness training for our clients. And my third slide is, if cybercrime was a business, right? They would have the third largest GDP. So they would be just behind China in the third slide. So just if you just think about those numbers in the trillions of dollars, um, this has become a big business and it's not going away.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little more about what can be done. So when it comes to cyber insurance, just like we talked about, implementing security controls can help prove that you are secure, can help you get better rates. This is an example we had with a law firm whose premium was going to go up. Instead, they implemented a full security operations sort of package of multiple services, were able to get their premium down enough to cover the cost of the security operations services. So pretty compelling story there. And then I just want to make sure I break down how Arctic Wolf and Frontline can show how you meet these controls, so we can provide these products and services, and then provide proof to insurers in order to help you get better rates, better coverage.
And one thing we did talk about, we're talking about insurers, but a lot of times these bullet points here need to be also covered by clients. There's client questionnaires that most of our clients are getting as law firms, that they need to be responsible, sometimes even more requirements than an insurer would, for they're in compliance with various factors on here. And again, they have to prove well to maintain that business. Ernesto fills these out all the time and helps clients with them.
Right. And if, if you look at some of these security controls, they're backed by policies, right? So vulnerability management is a key one because you should be continuously detecting, what devices on your network, what are the potential vulnerabilities, and having a strategic patch management policy in support of the vulnerability management because you want to minimize that exposure as best as possible, and leveraging Arctic Wolf's agents on your devices that provides that containment in the event of an incident or anything's odds go. So you minimize the containment. So that's why that in that way you could quickly resolve the potential issue that could have cascaded to network wide. But the containment feature is like the quick response or that active response to contain that whatever that issue is, so it doesn't spread throughout your network and it doesn't spread to other users. As well as privileged account management. A lot of times you don't think about third-party access. What does third-party, how are you managing the accounts for third-party partners? What's their level of access? Do you disable access after? Is it just a short time use or is it just in time access? Ensure multi-factor authentication across all accounts, doesn't matter who it is. And of course, locking down ports on your firewalls, making sure unauthorized services are not available, and detecting unauthorized access to potential services you provide to your users. Also testing your backup, making sure your backups are immutable. All these things, all these bullet points here are part of a package that we provide and services to ensure that you're compliant. And it doesn't matter what compliance you fall under, but these are the main bullet points that you want to make sure that you have in place.
Yeah. And, this is a subset of bullets, things that can be done to improve security. I want to demonstrate how we can give you a baseline of where you're at today, and then leave you with a frontline offer to help understand that baseline and how you can improve security posture over time. So just taking us back to, how to end cyber risk. At the very top of the funnel here, we have understanding your cyber risk based on where you are today. Arctic Wolf does that through a cyber resilience assessment. And I'll just show you briefly the impact that an assessment like this can make. Am I showing this unified portal?
It looks great. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Arctic Wolf Cyber Resilience Assessment. With a partner like Frontline, Frontline helps their customers align to security-specific frameworks. So here we have chosen NIST CSF 2.0, and then Frontline has helped their customers understand, based on all the controls for this specific framework, do you align to it? And how many of your assets align to that? And just like we had talked about earlier, are you reviewing that consistently and reporting on it? This will give you a baseline score based on those controls. And then it can also open up a conversation to understand, we don't have MDR yet. We have a current value of 0. What if we added Arctic Wolf, MDR, or another security vendor? This is actually vendor agnostic tool. What kind of impact would that make on our score? And here I can see it puts me in the green. I can also show how this is increasing over time, and it provides me with an insurability rating that I can share with insurers that shows a good, better, best, and basically how you align to all the elements that I showed in the controls.
I just want to
Laura,
add
can
to
you
that
put that screen back up there one more time?
Oh,
I
sure.
know we're almost out of time, but I want to make a comment that I just observed.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about this tool right here is, especially if you're in management IT and you're looking for proof or you're looking for ammunition to get approval to add those additional services. So part of the assessment process, you could show your score without that particular product or solution. And then you show, if you add that solution, where your score becomes, because that's part of your self-assessment. So this allows you to kind of estimate what your overall security posture would be, but depending upon the type of services you add.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we don't have IDS yet. if we added it, it would increase our score by 110 at the maximum. So really great for those conversations. And then let me jump.
I think a tool like that also helps you see your security maturity level within your organization. That a tool like that can take upwards, by the way, of 20 hours with Ernesto helping you guys fill it out. Some firms a little bit less than that, but it's super in depth. It's not just a matter of selecting a product, it's what you are all doing within a law firm, and it's a really deeply engaging process to do that along the way.
And then I'll leave this as a takeaway from Michael or Ernesto to speak to.
Yeah, so basically what we want to do is we want to help everyone understand their gaps within their law firms. So we're working with law firms and Arctic Wolf to provide a cybersecurity assessment, and that'll help show your gaps and give you a base score. It's not as in-depth as the cyber assessment you just saw. That is a really much more in depth, which you could talk about as well when you speak to you guys. But happy to do that for you. You're going to have a link on the next page come up. You'll get free lunch from us. And again, we'll go over with you your current assessment where you're at. And it'll give you a score and a rating. And, we do green, red, yellow. Green means you're great. Red means you've got really a lot of risk. Yellow means there's some gaps in there and whatnot. Again, every organization, no matter what size firm you are, you're a $1 billion law firm, you've got gaps. If you're a 20-person law firm, you've got gaps. It's normal. And then if we want to talk about those gaps and help educate you so we can figure out what you can do to help mitigate some of those risks. And it was great having everyone here today. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Ernesto.
Thank you for
Do
your
we have
time.
any
Yeah, thank you,
questions?
Lauren.
It looks like we have 2 questions so far. So everyone, there's a poll up on the screen if you want to respond to that to claim your gap assessment. Just want to call that out. And then if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. So the first question here is, how do insurers verify that we have the required security controls in place?
They ask for evidence.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you're doing vulnerability scanning, they're going to ask for your most recent report. And I've just seen another one yesterday where requested, okay, show me the list of your latest vulnerabilities and when you expect to have them resolved. And the key thing to remember as well, it's not, we're seeing clients auditing their law firms now too as well. So it's coming from client base. So if you're in the financial industry, if you're supporting financial firms or financial organizations and stuff like that, it depends on what the law practice you're in, you're going to start seeing clients who start asking the same type of questions because they're getting it from their cyber insurance companies, and they're going to turn around and ask you those same questions.
Yeah, agreed. Reporting. And that's something we can talk about too as follow-up, how Frontline and Arctic Wolf can provide the appropriate reporting to get that proof.
That kind of goes with the next question posted here. If we implement the Frontline and Arctic Wolf services, how quickly can we see an impact on premiums?
So it would usually be the next renewal cycle for your cyber insurance. So getting to know that would be ideal, especially if you're going to talk to Frontline, so that they can help prepare you for that next cycle to have the proof in place to impact the premiums.
Good question.
No more questions.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
Ernesto, Laura, thanks for being here today. It was a great presentation. So thank you, everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be having a giveaway, which will reach out to you. There's a PDF with some security insights as well. We'll be providing after this as well. So if you hear us reach out, please accept that email and a call on that. And again, thanks everyone for being here. Hope you guys found it valuable. And until next time, I'm Michael Glasser. Be well.
Take care.